You feel humiliated by what's happened. It's supposed to have the best security defence system in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, Paula, I don't see any sign that Israel's going to be restrained. In fact, the opposite. And that's what worries me, is that, you know, there is a theory that Hamas have deliberately goaded Israel with an act of such
So they might
appalling...
not fall for it, that's my point.
Right, they might not.
Stupid.
They might not, but the political pressure on Netanyahu having dropped the ball and letting this happen may be a catalyst for him to now go too far. And I don't know where that leads.
Yes, and of course we know that Netanyahu was struggling in any event before there was the attacks. We know that Netanyahu himself likes to refer to himself as Mr. Security. That's his thing, and that of course, has now been dashed. But what I can say is, leading on from your question to Adam, is that we are looking at international war crimes unravelling before our eyes.
Terrorism, right?
We undoubtedly.
You use that word because, I mean, the BBC, Emily, they won't say terrorism. I mean, I find it absolutely extraordinary.
I find that extraordinary.
How you can report, as they have been...
I find that extraordinary. The stories we've
40
heard,
babies are
a whole family
murdered
of
and some have their heads cut off, and you can't say it's terrorism.
And a whole family of 5 wiped out entirely. So I don't understand that. I really don't. I think they should explain themselves. And I echo what you're saying. I think it is... someone has described this as like Israel's Twin Towers moment. And I think that as much as we may want them to show restraint, I think that's an incredibly hard thing to do at this moment.
No, but
time.
their lessons from Twin Towers, though, that with hindsight, it was a mistake. It was an overreaction.
But with hindsight, once that fury, anger, horror...
I can't even imagine the fury
think...
that will be in Israel right now, or amongst the Jewish community worldwide.
But as a lawyer, I think it's important for me to point out to the viewers that when I reference international war crimes, we're going to see an investigation in relation to both parties and how they have acted over the last few days. This is not just a one-sided slur that I'm flinging out there. It's important for both sides to be...
It is. I mean, this has been...
Well, there is also the problem that Hamas is not a state.
Right.
So,
I don't think they give a damn about international law, by the way, or anything. I think they just they are nihilists, and they want to create as much terror as possible, and they will kill any Jewish people of any age whenever they get the chance.
I'm just saying, we can't necessarily say that history is going to repeat itself. I mean, this obviously was timed to coincide, for example, with the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War.
Yeah.
I was at a meeting last night, as it happened, there are a lot of Arab ambassadors there, and actually it was a bit like Fawlty Towers. They did not want to talk about the war, whereas 50 years ago, the Arab nations basically lined up and said, let's see if we can push Israel out. Israel has occupied a much more cooperative role, some of it secret and not openly acknowledged, in the Middle East generally with the other Arab nations for a time.
And with Saudi Arabia, that's the new
including,
wider geopolitical...
And that's probably what's been inspiring, I suspect, Iran to encourage...
Because they don't want that.
They don't want that discussion.
They don't want calm. They don't want calm.
But what I'm saying
want
is
them to get on.
Israel won't necessarily want to push Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states into an impossible position, which if they
No, I think it's an interesting point. I mean, I hope you're right. I just fear that may not be what happens.
I think we can agree there's going to be a lot of bloodshed. There is going to be a lot of innocent children,
and a lot of innocent people,
and the UN's
on both
trying
sides
to
will
ask
get
that
slaughtered,
children are given safe passage out of the Gaza Strip now, which I hope they do agree to, because children
and also
are children.
something has to be done about the Gaza Strip, right? You can't just have these millions of people sitting there living...
2 million, yeah.
2 million people, but living in this tiny, cramped area with very little anyway. Now they're going to have all that stripped away. And you just think, well, where does that lead? You know, you're just probably going to create 2 million martyrs, right? I mean, that's what will probably happen.